listening to Brandon Sanderfans with Ben and Sam. My name is Ben with my best friend Sam. How are you today, Sam?
I'm Sam. I'm good, and I'm here to say that I'm into Elantris in a major way. I'm good. Thanks.
Yep. We're into Elantris. We're 9 chapters into Elantris.
Man,
that's
already.
Counting the preface, which was 2 pages. Was it a preface or prologue? Prologue.
It's whatever you want it to be.
Yeah. I mean, really, the entire book is whatever you meant to be. You could read in the book, Raoden felt his toe, and you could actually believe that it said 9/11 will never be forgotten by the American people. I mean, you could get anything from that if you're crazy enough, you know?
Well, and that's what Brandon...
wily.
That's what Brandon Sanderson is always banking on. The crazies to read his book.
Yeah, what's the craziest read off of these chapters, Sam?
So there's that debate between... I mean, there's a mini debate, philosophical, religious debate between Hrathen and Serene. And what I actually read was it was not a debate at all, but it was just this. It was actually Hrathen reading a little bit of Eat, Pray, Love, and Serene was enjoying a large bowl of Holland Oats.
Of Holland, oh yeah, that makes sense. You know, I didn't get that at first. I'm gonna have to go through it again, fine-tooth comb, you know, and make sure, because you know that I'm an H&O fan.
Absolutely.
So I'm gonna want to pull that one out. Makes my dreams come true.
You can, if you want, we can read those chapters together afterwards, and I'll show you all the little clues that definitely prove that Hrathen was indeed reading Eat, Pray, Love.
Sam, ask me how I'm doing.
Ben, I really want to, but I'm afraid of the answer. You know, Ben, I love you. You're my best friend. How are you?
Yeah?
You doing okay?
Sam, I adopted all these dang Elantrians. I just, you know, they had the commercial, and they all looked so cute.
Was it in the arms of the Elantrians?
Yes. And they look sad and hungry and very cute.
No.
I mean, I grew up with Dalmatians, you know that. And so just spotted things really, really set my gears going. And I was just like, let's just bring some of these guys in. It looks like they don't move much. They were not moving much in the commercial.
I'm surprised that they moved him enough to move.
You feed these guys one bowl of oatmeal, and they're tripping all over each other. And I'm like, come on, guys, lay down. And then they're always whining about their aches and scrapes. I'm like, come on. I kissed it better.
Now, I'm afraid to ask this question. How many? Can you quantify the amount of Elantrians currently laying down in your front room?
Well, they keep having babies, Sam. I can't keep track.
No.
They're just multiplying out there.
You can't let Elantrians have babies. First off, I don't even know if that's possible. I haven't finished the book. But secondly, you
yeah, Sam, that's definitely in the last chapter of this book. You got to keep reading.
That's the big climax is they don't ever figure out what's wrong, and all of a sudden there's just all of them are pregnant, even the men. It's like a junior situation. It gets really messy near the end of the book. So,
well, that's been my experience. Like, you know, they're covered in spots. They're bald from head to toe. They got some, like, you know, hairs here and there, but like you can't tell the girls from the boys. You can't tell. Like, I try to separate them in a pen, and then 5 minutes later they're mixed up again. And I don't know how they're doing it. I built a pen it was like 1 foot tall, like I 1 foot tall. I don't know how they got over it.
Well, they're so fragile. You think that they would bang their toe and just give up trying to get over. Have you considered making a shorter, even shorter, like 6 inches? Then they might just trip.
You know what? I have been showing them a lot of Rugrats, and I think they learned how to break out from that.
Oh,
you know, that Tommy Pickles was always getting out of there.
You know, and Tommy Pickles was such a wily Elantrian. You know, that was the best part of the show. How
yeah, he was a pretty wily Elantrian. He did look, if you added spots on Tommy Pickles, virtually identical to all these guys I got downstairs. I mean, there's really no difference.
How's your dog handling it? I mean, he's a pretty nervous pup. Is he okay?
The thing is, my dog is also white with black spots. Like, he's just white and black mottled. He gets lost in the fray so much. I don't know if he's eaten, if he's gotten fed. I don't know if the Elantrians are eating his food. His food's going somewhere.
But no telling where. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, let's see. You've got this...
Wait, let me check on him again. 1 second.
Yeah, no, go ahead.
Hey! Stop touching her. Stop touch. No! Stop it. Okay. Sorry, they were touching. I mean, they were crossing over again, and I don't want to have more Elantrians on my hands, you know.
Are you getting any Elantrian government help? I guess the Elantrian government was dissolved.
Yeah, it was dissolved, Sam. It was dissolved. That's why they only got, like, Sarah McLachlan is, like, pretty much their president and queen. Well, and, like, she just sells them.
That's a little dark. But does, I don't know, does she give you, like, a couple hundred here and there to help pay for whatever that is they eat? I guess everything?
Well, yeah, they pretty much eat everything. I've seen them chewing on my carpet, and I'm like, that's not even organic. That's synthetic. I didn't even spring for the right stuff. I knew you guys were coming.
Well, you know what? As long as everybody's happy, I see no issue with this. You have my blessing, and Hrathen's cursing, and Dilof's even more cursing. Goodness, that guy's got an attitude. Yeah. Ugh.
Yeah, lots of cursings. 1 sec. You know what, Sam?
Yeah.
Let me check something.
No, yeah, go ahead.
Are you... What?
What happened? Are you okay?
Sam, they're all Dalmatians.
You're telling me
that
you just have a bunch of puppies downstairs and you confuse them for weird god people?
Well, yeah, I don't know what god people are supposed to look like, and these puppies are pretty cute. I mean, it's like looking in the face of God.
Ben, do you know what I call that?
What?
Call that an average Tuesday.
I thought you were gonna say, like a puppy predicament or a pup dicrement or something.
Not. You know, okay, let me try again.
You know what I call that? I got a better one.
Okay.
You know what I call that?
What?
A dog lemma.
Oh, that's really good.
Thanks.
That's really good.
But really, there's a lot of them down there. I think we are nearing the 101 threshold, at which point it becomes illegal. Disney will come and seize all of my life.
That's right. Proposition 101. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, Proposition Dalmatian 101. They take them away at a certain point. Like, they're like, no, these are all ours. And that's how they made those movies. They really just stole them from, parents like myself. We don't want to talk about that a lot, but I think it's important.
Well, it's very upsetting. You know what you could do with a lot of those Dalmatians, though?
What?
You could give some to me.
Oh,
I love puppies. Yeah, I'll take a couple hundred or a couple dozen.
Well, Sam, I do seem to remember a certain Halloween where you dressed up as Cruella de Vil. This is not some big honeypot that you've been running for years trying to get me to adopt a bunch of Dalmatians and then give them to you, right?
Absolutely not. That is, I wouldn't do. How dare you? I couldn't. If I was there, I would steal all of them, and just to spite you, I'd make a coat.
Oh. Wait, what?
I'd make it. I'd make it just to spite you and this horrible accusation. I'd make some great shoes, just the best shoes you ever saw.
Out of what?
Hey everybody, we read Elantris 7, 8, and 9, and we
yes we did.
We're not gonna lie to you. We don't have a lot to say about these chapters.
Hey, these chapters spoke for themselves. I think there's some stuff we're definitely gonna bring up. First chapter, yeah, Raiden's doing his thing. He's gonna start saving people. He did a pretty bad job on the first go around. I'm not gonna lie. It's not gonna be sustainable for him to steal people in this way. But he got Shoes Boy out of it,
Yeah, Shoe Boy Craftman, who's more for fine jewelry.
He's a cousin of Devon from Mistborn. Is a character that we created a little while ago.
Undoubtedly, they've got. If only Devin was here, he would bring Elantris back on its feet in just the most lavish pants.
Just the best pants, man. And then he got shoes to go along with it. So that's like we got a Bob Fosse show right there. That's all you need: pants and shoes.
Yeah, it was. Ben and I were talking before. We don't just talk on this podcast. We talk outside this podcast. I know it's a little strange for some of you.
I don't know
that.
If you knew that we were friends, but Sam and I are friends. We talk sometimes. It's we save some for each other. It's like a marriage. We can't share everything with everyone else.
There's some conversations that we have. They're just the best conversations. So funny, heartfelt. And we don't record them. Isn't that, I mean, sometimes you can't record everything. But we were talking and we mentioned how right now we're introducing lots of characters, but building upon the characters that we already know and just showing a little more of their personalities and of what they're trying to accomplish, but without really moving a lot forward. And that's not a jab at Brandon Sanderson like, ugh, 3 more chapters and we barely know what's going on. That's just how he's building this book. And it is working because it still has my interest. But it's just, these were a couple chapters that, without putting a negative spin on this word or having a negative connotation, they were filler chapters. They were pushing forward the exposition.
Yeah, they were filling us in on the story and the atmosphere and the environment. We learn a lot more about the court this time. We learn more about kind of we do some setup for some of the conflicts for Raoden and kind of their relationship with Galadon. We do a lot more setup with Raithrin and what he's trying to do in the background as well. So like there is a lot going on. Realistically, we're in the 3rd chapter of 3 characters' separate stories. We're not really in the 7th, 8th, and 9th chapter of one book. The way it's set up, it's a little bit different. I remember when I first read this book, and maybe this is because we are pacing ourselves so that we can keep these chapters fresh in our minds when we come and record. When I first read this book, I would just plow through because I wanted to get, this character, I want to figure out what happened with this character next. Maybe I'll find that out through the next chapters, or I'll read through the next chapter so I can get back to them and figure out what's going on from there. So each bit has me invested, and I definitely want to figure out what's going on with each one,
Yeah, absolutely. There's one thing Ben and I were talking about that I think is very important to bring up, and that's the fact that at no point in the friendship between Raoden and Unky K did he bring up the fact that he had a cute niece who'd be totally down to flirt over Skype or whatever. That never came Skype. Up. That's not possible. That's not a thing. Uncles, as far as I know, I don't have uncles. I do. I don't know any of them. But I'm sure if I wasn't, married, that they'd be like, hey, you girl should check out my nephew. He's a pretty cool guy. Once again, I don't have good uncles. I don't know them, so I'm sure I can't speak for them. But in a fantasy world where Unky K is like the coolest, most open, great person talking with a good guy, I'm sure he'd
exactly.
Be like,
and he's like best friends. He's like best friends with her.
Yeah,
like her future fiance, and it never came up. I think they only talked 3 times, so it makes sense if they only talked 3 times over Spirit Skype that they only talked about one another. They didn't talk about too much the realms or whatever. I don't know. And we also know that Serene has kind of a politically driven mind, so she may have just asked more about the politics and stuff around there, and then kind of gotten a feel for Raoden and vice versa from that. But it's very interesting. Yeah. We're and she has a cousin that also fits perfectly into the noble class and will be right by her side for most of her time. Trying to save her people and her country, even though she's kind of socially castrated from the rest of the ruling class.
I think I really do like the similarities between Raoden and Serene, because we see that obviously Serene is manipulating her way into the court so she can see what she can do to help. And as was Raoden, he would find ways to manipulate the laws instilled by his father to make his father essentially kick himself in the butt, and and have the laws turn around on himself. It was sweet, and we're not saying this to be like Brandon Sanderson. It's all too easy. You're making it too easy, but I think it just adds to the sweet love story that they have, while yet not actually having. I guess, because of the whole Elantris thing, but it's lovely similarities between the two, between the two characters.
Yeah, I mean, and while we kind of skipped over Raiden and we're Serenes, which is fine with me right now. While we're here, I'm going to mention in passing, yes, we understand that there are a lot of similarities between the king of Erelon and our current president. He was a merchant who became king. He fills his noble class with other rich people. He wants rich people to advise and be around him, which is almost a direct quote from our current president. So this, it's not lost on us. It seems so on the nose. If this came any time after Donald Trump's presidency, I would be like, oh, come on.
You couldn't. Come on, everybody's taking jabs.
I mean, they're very different people. Other than that, I think they have different drives and different strengths, different weaknesses between our president and the King of Erelon. But it's just it was pretty interesting, especially how everything's become so political now. Trying to escape into a fantasy book didn't even do it for me this week.
There's always next week. Well, maybe not. Never mind. There's always next book, depending on what we read next. Well, yes, there are strong parallels, and that's all we're gonna say. If you want any more opinions, watch Saturday Night Live. I don't know. Go on Twitter. There's some there's some hot takes on Twitter.
You do you. There's plenty of good stuff. I just want to. The last thing, I'm gonna miss the Mooch so dang much. The Mooch, he brought such a smile to my face, and now he's just gone. Anyway, he's my Harambe, guys. Anyway,
you stop that right now.
Going on. So,
my gosh,
Raiden, he captures this man, and very quickly makes the man subservient to him, making his shoes, which. Very, very good. I think it's because Raiden, and you said it, Sam, that Raiden and Serene have are very alike in many ways. I think Raiden has a natural love for people and a natural optimism that people tend to gravitate towards. And people in crisis will gravitate towards whoever has a plan. And I think that this man found that out, and he sees that, Raiden saved him, that he's going to be open and honest with him and try to help him out, that he cares about him, and
with how quickly the conversation, or how quickly the guy was like, well, I make fine jewelry. He's like, okay, you're making shoes. Okay, I'll make shoes. Yeah, you're making shoes. Also, call me this. I don't remember what it was that he was supposed to call him. Something like oh, that's right, yeah.
Lord Spirit.
Call me the Spirit. He's like, oh, yes, Spirit, here are some shoes. Yeah, it's much like... I don't want to say
The
this.
Spirit by Robert Rodriguez.
Oh, jeez. Yes, exactly like that. Case closed. The Spirit was an Elantrian. How do I want to say this? Mm-hmm. So, Brandon Sanderson wrote a very similar character. I think there's similarities between Raoden and Kelsier, in that naturally drawn optimism has a plan to escape the current situation. And I know this is very broad, but there really are very strong similarities between the character types. And as I mentioned, we were going through Mistborn. It was a little annoying at times to have someone so optimistic in with every danger that affronted him, or with every moment of that could have been absolutely destroyingly negative, Kelsier found a way to, spin it and make it better. I have a feeling that that's how Raoden is. He's obviously in a bad situation, but ever since he's got there, he's like, all right, got to keep moving, got to keep working. There is a part of me that admires that, and I love reading about characters like that because it inspires me. But then there's the other part of me that's like, screw that guy. Let's have Hot Pockets. You know what I mean? It's just like it draws me to them, but at the same time, I'm repelled by it because I just want to chill. I just want to chill for a minute.
You know what it is about Hot Pockets for me? It's that crisper sleeve. That you're going to have something hot and a little bit crispy, but then chewy on the inside. It's all about the texture. I think the taste I could take or leave, because the cheese really doesn't taste like anything. But the crispy and then the chewy, I think that's what gets me into a Hot Pocket, like deep in it, you know?
I agree. The cheese is essentially just like a bunch of bland string cheese, but I love getting like the meatball flavor.
Yeah.
Because you got those meatballs and they're gross.
Meatball
but it
marinara.
Just adds to the texture. Oh yeah. So good. Screw ham and cheese though. That's the worst.
Have you ever had the breakfast Hot Pockets?
No. There's a breakfast Hot Pocket?
Don't have them. I never had one that didn't explode and they're filled with egg. Yeah, I don't know how.
Gross.
Yeah,
Gross.
I don't know how. That's all I'm going to say about Hot Pockets. Hot Pockets sponsor of the show. Moving on. So we do see it starts to rain on Raiden, and then we go over to Serene, who's doing very good at playing dumb. She's trying to stay close to the king and close to the action by basically painting in the throne room the other paintings. She is a very bad painter.
Well, it's impressionistic.
Oh, right. It's I have the impressionist ick that she's a bad painter, though. Reading these chapters.
She deals mostly with smudges.
From there, she goes to a meeting with it was a meeting that they used to do a lot with when Raiden was still around, with her uncle and others. And from there, they go up to the wall where Raithrin is preaching. Which the preaching thing, kind of got me. Like I like the fact that outside of the chapters of these characters, they're still living their lives. So when you meet them later in another character's chapter, they may be at a different point in their story, or you have like a fresh perspective on what they're doing and what they're trying to accomplish.
Yeah, absolutely. And I do very much enjoy the tenacity of Raithen. We talked about this last time, and I think he's such an interesting character.
Yeah.
And Chelsea...
I think you can definitely read his actions. I think you can definitely read his actions much more clearly when you're not in his point of view, though. So, like, for Serene, every time she's seen him, it reads much more clearly, like, this is a very evil man that's trying to bring down everything and overthrow everything, which he is, in a way. He is trying to bring down the government. He is trying to bring down the people and bring them under the yoke of his empire. Through faith, is just his method of doing it, and also some skullduggery. He meets with the nobles and gives them some vague promises. Kind of feels out which ones are going to be amenable to following along, so he can get more people to convert to.
Yeah, he had a very politician-esque way of answering questions in order to keep them, hopeful for whatever promises without actually having a promise attached to his responses. He's playing the game, basically doing whatever he can to, like you said, overthrow the government, get his religion in place, have the pride of knowing that he, yes, indeed, converted this entire city.
Yeah. Almost like, I feel like it's a sense of ownership. Like, he'll own the conversion of these people. And that will bring him more, glory, more esteem, all those things. There's actually one bit that I skipped over in Serene's chapter that's probably one of the darker things that... It's very quietly dark. And it's the scene where the peasant man, the servant man, is brought before the king, and they're determining who his children and his wife belong to.
Oh my gosh.
And the entire scene's incredibly, affecting, because it's just, that's horrible. And they don't shy away from it. Serene, like, just mentions how it's done. But I think that the thing that struck me most is at the end, where Serene saw the man, and he hadn't changed his expression or anything until after the verdict, and after a couple moments, he looked up at the king once everything was sinking in, with just pure, absolute, unadulterated hatred in his heart. And yeah, man, that's really, really heavy stuff.
It was, yeah.
The freedom that fantasy writers have to allow us to experience parts of kind of the worst of humanity separated from our own like societal imperatives on it. So like whenever nowadays, whenever we talk about slavery in terms of history, it feels like there's always this horrible stain of racism because it was so prevalent in a time in our country. But I feel like there's a bit of freedom when you're writing about situations like this, where they don't even bother mentioning the skin color of anyone around. They mention the nationality, but it doesn't seem like race really matters. And it could be that this man I absolutely believe that this man is also from the same country. So, he would be the same in all intents and purposes, and they just don't care. He's property in all but one name. And that name is slave, so.
And especially with the king being the wealthy merchant that he is, and with his friends in the same court, there has to be some socioeconomic decision in making servants, and in making the lower working class and the working class, those who can't make more money will have to work harder to make less money. And so I'm sure when it comes, race definitely probably has absolutely nothing to do with it, but rather it's just socioeconomic standing, which is also applied to our, once again, something that draws a parallel to our time period now, where, of course, racism does still run rampant, unfortunately, but it's also those who don't have money, those who work so hard to just support their families, are still treated worse, or are still not cared for because they just don't have money. And that's so unfair. And to watch this scene play out in the court, yes, I know it's fantasy, yes, I know it's fiction, but it is, I can't even imagine that. That is so heartbreaking.
One of the rules of thumb about fantasy and science fiction is, why even write it if you're not trying to explore humanity? Like, no one wants to go into an alien world and be like, these are how the aliens act, and it's like, fine, you made up Gerbliglows, and we learned how Gerbliglows feel. What does that teach us about us? Oh, nothing, because everything, it's all meaningless. It's just a bunch of stuff that you made up. The point of good fantasy writing is you go somewhere alien, different, amazing, so that you can find out what characters are like in those situations, those environments. So yeah, absolutely. And I was just, and the thing about the thing that disquiets me most about the scene is how, at least for the slaveholder and for the king, how generic it seemed for them. How quiet it was. That it was just, he shows up, there's the decision, and they get shoved off, and that's it. So, anything else that you want to go over with these chapters, Sam?
Quite frankly, no. I did take notes, But I just sat back and I enjoyed them. I didn't really have anything that struck chords in me. I am glad that you brought that up, because that was something that was definitely very heavy in what appeared to be some lighter chapters. And I say lighter, not as if like everything was, bouncy castles and whatnot.
Yeah. That being said, just, I really think that it's the role. That being said, like all the things like, it is an absolute horrible situation. I'm glad that there's fiction that it goes there, that explores that, or else when are we confronted with the specters of these horrible bad ideas that ruin lives? Sometimes there seems to be a push to undo or erase fiction that we find disagreeable. And I think that's a big mistake. So I'd it's just a fantasy person. I kid you not. There are people out there that'll say, no matter what the situation, you can't put this in your book. I don't think that that's the case at all. I think that there are ethical ways to display it. And I think that Brandon definitely does that here with displaying how horrible the situation is and how it is just leading to the destruction of the same thing that the kingdom's trying to uphold. It's going to just wreck their economy eventually when these people that have been destroyed and separated from their families just rebel. And it's also going to lead them to lose their standing. I can't read that scene in any other way. So. Yeah.
I agree. Absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah, this is we didn't really want to do we do long episodes. We know. We enjoy talking. We enjoy the sounds of our own voices and giggling. But we figured this would be a shorter episode just because not a lot to say, and the story's still chugging forward, and I'm still excited to read it. Ben, how do you want to end the episode this time?
We're gonna make a Sanderman this week, and this is where we generate 3 random nouns, and using these 3 random nouns, we make up a new character to inject into the book. Specifically, since we just read these chapters, inject somewhere into these chapters. So I'm gonna go ahead and generate 3 random nouns, Sam, and
yes,
those 3 random nouns are bust, divider, and winner. Bust, divider, and winner.
Divider, winner.
So I'll go ahead and start.
Yeah. This
character has just amazing dance moves. They get out there, and the thing is, like, they weren't always a good dancer, but they always put like 100% in until they just became like everyone wanted to dance like this person. And they ended up calling that type of dancing, it was a completely new type of dancing, bustin', because it's just like you're just exploding everywhere. The inventor of bustin', what are they doing in these chapters? So
while Hrathen is preaching on the street, and while people are starting to leave because they're no longer interested in his religious preaching, they move over just a few feet
because they're still right there, and Bustin, Mr. and Mrs. Bustin is right there. Like, I'm gonna get some money out of this, and they start just doing their bustin', right?
They start busting so good, and people are losing their minds. I mean, it's a dance move they've never seen, but it looks so great. And it's something they can get behind. So they start throwing coins. That's how they start to make their living. Mr. and Mrs. Bustin start just dancing. Mm-hmm.
Okay, I love it. I think that it gets to the point where I'm gonna say Ms. Bustin. Ms. Bustin, she is getting so popular. She's getting all over there. But she wears a mask and a hood, so no one really knows who Miss Bustin is.
Right, absolutely.
So it's like, and they're not even sure if it's one person, if it's many people, and everyone's like, no, many people can't dance exactly like that. I've seen them like 4 times already. I'm my favorite dancer, and they're in the fandom, in the Bustin' fandom, there's a divide. of people that are like, no, it's got to be a company of people, and we got to find them, and we got to interrogate them and figure out all the people in the company so that they can get all together. Like, there's going to be a big concert someday. It's going to be the craziest thing we've ever seen. And everyone else like, no, it's just one person. I know it. I got all this evidence. They move their hand this way. I mean, and they've got like this small bump on their shoulder, and they always have that bump on their shoulder.
Look at ankle size. It's very specific. We have the measurements from vision and from an artist's rendering. It's kind of like Banksy. You know, exactly. Everyone's like, wow, Banksy's so good, but who is Banksy? Now, Ms. Bustin is super great. Like, these dance moves are perfect. Mm-hmm. And so some people argue it's like, well, only a woman could dance that well. And some people argue, well, no, maybe it's a very graceful, nimble man. But it doesn't matter because
we'll learn about this later.
It's tearing people apart.
That there are other cultures and stuff. One of the characters actually does do like a dance sort of martial arts type thing. And so like they know like it could just been someone that trained far away. Maybe they're not even from here. Maybe like that's where they learned Bustin. Maybe there's like a Bustin monastery somewhere that like they learned at, and they came here to spread the good word. And so I think that eventually, in the course of the book, and this is projecting a little far out, and I don't remember how the book goes, so this is not going to be a spoiler for anything, but eventually there's an open election, and all the people have the choice of who they're going to elect, and it's between the current king of Erelon and Hraithrin. He's just jumping right at it. He's jumping into the political realm. But everyone, they're told, like, you can choose these two main candidates, or you can write in your own candidate. And everyone, like 80% of everyone writes in Bustin. And that's all they write in. And
I love this so much.
So they win the election, and no one knows their identity. No one knows what's going on. They go up. It's like the greatest coronation ever. It's like the biggest dance party anyone's ever had. And Bustin goes for like 4 hours straight. Just keep on dancing. No, it doesn't even tire out. And then like just goes inside of the keep of the castle. Doesn't see people, which is a little bit weird. But every third day comes out and just does this big Bustin routine. And then has like 3 advisors that translate what Bustin is doing and what Bustin is saying to all the people. And you know what the Bustin is saying and Bustin is doing?
What?
Be excellent to one another.
Oh, here we go. Yes.
And
yes.
Party on, dudes.
What else does he say? Wait, I got one. Stay golden, pony boy. Okay, so now if I can turn things a little dark. Okay. I know we didn't get a fourth now.
A dark timeline is what we're going to.
Yeah, so well, and it's a part of obviously it's a part of this one because this all happens just years. Yeah. Years. Well, of a great presidency.
Every blue sky has a cloud, Sam.
Exactly. I mean, every time he comes out, every 3 days, puts out that new Bustin technique. It's perfect. Like, and it's new. Everyone's like, I don't know how they come up with this stuff. But one day, he dies because he busts too hard, and his heart busts, and he just falls down in front of everybody. I know. And then the country just goes into turmoil. No one was taught how to bust. They don't know how to carry it on. They write out letters and they send envoys to different parts of the world to see where they can figure it out. And you know what? No one knows. No one knows where Bustin got it from. And the world is never the same. And no one's happy ever again. Everyone's unhappy forever.
Let me change this around once more. So
I
agree.
Yeah, hit me.
Ms. Bustin dies. A hero. A hero. She's united the nation altogether. And everyone is in turmoil after Bustin dies. There's a huge funeral. Everyone comes. And, the next week, everyone's like, well, who's going to lead us? Like, who's going to tell us what to do? And then they look over their neighbor like, hey, like, what am I supposed to do? And their neighbor's like, be excellent to one another. And party on, dudes. And at every single political decision, and this is on an individual level, every single person just governs themselves by those two phrases. And they never have a ruler again, they never have a government, and they never have a broken law. Just, it's pure perfection.
You know what I call that?
What?
I call that a Sanderman.
That's a Sanderman. That's a Bustin miracle.
That is, but I love Ms. Bustin. She is amazing.
Mm-hmm. Oh. And I think she is like Banksy. I don't even know if Banksy gave Banksy the name. I think it's just a name that showed up. And just like Bustin is a name that showed up, no one knows anything other than that.
Absolutely. This is great. This is great. This is a Sanderman for the ages.
Yeah, and Brandon Sanderson, you can use that. Except for the line that's definitely from Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure, I think you may have some problems using that one. But
party on, dudes. I mean, that's more of a broad 90s rocker kind of thing. Yeah, but it's also in conjunction with the be
excellent to one another, I'm pretty sure that that would...
One, how about, like, be formidable with each other? And that's awful.
No, that was awful, Sam. My ears just died. Thank you guys so much for listening into this episode of Brandon Sanderfans. Next week, we will be reading chapters 10 through 12 of Elantris, getting deeper into this book, and I'm having a great time. How you doing, Sam?
I'm still excited about it. It's and I'm not saying that with like, well, I thought my interest was gonna, die off by now. No, I'm really excited. I think it's going really well. It's a very good read. I'm happy to keep on trucking. Yeah. What about you, Ben? You excited for the rest of it?
I'm very excited. I actually accidentally started listening to more of the book and reading further, so I had to stop so I didn't talk about things I'm not supposed to talk about yet. Well, thank you guys so much for listening. All of our information to contact us is in the description, and as always, read a book.
Read a book.